You're about to watch the longest video in the history of my channel ever. Now, I know from my back-end analytics that not everybody watches my video from start to finish, and you can speculate as to why that may or may not be, but for the love of Christ, if you could just do me a favor this one time and watch this whole video. Why? Because I need to take accountability for the things that I got wrong, and I need you to hear, in Vaush's own words, the explanation of his behavior and the things that we discussed in my video that I posted yesterday. So if you could just do me this one time, one thing, please do whatever you gotta do to get through the video. Get some snacks, get some drinks, like whatever you gotta do. Just make it through this video. Thank you so much. That's all I've ever asked of you. I love you so much. Bye.
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai, can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown, K-A-I. I'm Jesus Christ, and I can do anything I f***ing want to.
Hola chula, thank you so much for clicking onto this video. If you are new here, well then hi, hello, my name is Kai, and if you're coming back to my channel, well then it is so great to see you again. I don't really want to keep talking on and on because I really want to get into what we're doing today in this video, and that is reacting to Vaush's explanation of the events that took place on February the 7th. I literally uploaded a video, maybe like 2 hours ago, exposing Vaush, giving my perspective on the situation, and I made that video based on information and evidence that I had been shown and that I had found researching Vaush through Reddit and other forums. If it is revealed in this video that what I saw, what I read was incorrect, then I'm 100% willing to admit that I got the situation wrong. However, what I will have to keep in mind, and what I encourage you to keep in mind as well, is that we have video evidence of what was on Vaush's computer. So I'm not entirely sure what he could say that could make that okay. I promise to try to keep an open mind when watching this video, because again, I understand that I have the capacity to be wrong, and if I am wrong, that I want to admit that and own up to that and move forward.
So this is a video I probably should have made a long time ago. There are two main reasons why I haven't. For one, everything we're about to talk about has been discussed over and over and over again on this channel, in live streams and in videos. Some of it has been discussed to death. Over engagement with the topic has caused it to have a disproportionate influence both on my community and on the way people outside of my community perceive me and my channel.
I think that doing a recorded video actually gave him the time to think about what he wanted to say and to really construct an argument that actually makes sense. However, his initial responses back and forth to H3 or Ethan Klein seemed really unhinged and immature, and like he was completely freaking out. And I think that that usually tells me that somebody feels guilty, or they feel ashamed, or they feel like they have something to hide. But at the same time, having something that personal leak to your whole audience has got to be jarring, no matter what it is. So I can definitely understand why he wanted to do a recorded video versus doing a live stream.
And I've been hesitant to make this video is because experience has taught me that, generally speaking, if folks want to hate you or distrust you or whatever else, it's pretty difficult to convince them otherwise. Sometimes, if you're unpopular enough, even if you've got a good point to make, just the attempt to change people's minds can come across as kind of self-incriminating. You actually ground them further in the positions they already have. You know, it's one of those deals where the people who need to hear it won't listen, and the people who will listen don't need to hear it again.
Totally agree with that point. Some of you found my channel through my ex-Jehovah's Witness content, and that is what he just said is absolutely true in that community as well. The people who are watching your videos, by and large, are people who pretty much already agree that the Watchtower organization is a cult and is bad and needs to change or be brought down entirely. And the people that need to see your content, the active Jehovah's Witnesses who are being brainwashed by a manipulative cult, will most likely never search out your content. So I do understand what he's saying, and I feel like he's talking directly to me or somebody like me in this position where it's like I've already kind of formulated an opinion on you, and it might be difficult to change that. Who knows?
Let's get to it then. Let's not waste time. What am I actually talking about? Well, I hate to drop this on the people who just innocently watch me for my political content and don't engage in any broader community drama, some folks online have called me a pedophile. Now, this in and of itself isn't actually that noteworthy. With the political climate being what it is, folks are getting accused of being pedophiles on Twitter left and right. It's pretty common. But some people have called me this way more insistently and a lot louder. So why? Remember how I said self-defense can come across as kind of incriminating even if it's accurate or well-intentioned? Yeah, even though I've gone over all this before on stream or in videos, I wasn't exactly jumping at the bit to make a why I'm not a pedophile video. That's not... it's a rough subject, is what I'm saying. You know, that's one of the reasons why it's so effective as a smear, of course. It's just an incredibly difficult subject to engage with. So let's not waste any more time. We've got a lot to go through. What, then, is this video about? What do I have to say, and why do I want to say it? What are my goals in making the video? Well,
I just realized that I don't have him speeded up. And this would go a lot quicker if I did.
The video. Well, the gist of it is this. When people accuse me of being a pedophile, they usually do so while presenting pieces of evidence, often clips from my live streams, that make me look bad. While I do think that a lot of the claims and pieces of so-called evidence used against me range from being uncharitable to outright dishonest, the fact remains that I have said some incredibly stupid fucking shit on this channel, especially really early on, like right when I started streaming, and I don't fault anyone for seeing clips from that and being suspect of me. You know, I wasn't doing myself any favors, I'll say that much. For a lot of them, such as the ones where I'm making a point that is overall good and like uncontroversial, but I do a bad job of making it, there's nothing for me to really like debunk, you know? It's not a takedown. It's more a matter of charity. You know, I have to go and look at these clips and explain, what do they mean, you know? What was I thinking? What was I saying? Is this clip like so dishonestly cut that, you know, no reasonable person would interpret it as looking bad if seeing the full context? Or was I saying really stupid shit and I'm going to have to like work to explain what my thought process was at the time? And past that point, it's up to other people to either believe my charitable explanations or believe significantly less charitable ones. You know, that's up to them. In addition to some of the legitimately really stupid shit I've said, I'll also cover some of the more bullshit accusations because, I don't know, they're transparently bullshit, a lot of them. I feel like you would have to already dislike me to read anything from them. But, you know, a lot of it is that, so I need to sort of point that out, too. So, as far as I can see, there are 4 groups of people that I'm addressing here, more or less. The first group is my core audience, the people who have seen me address this and provide context for this and deal with this bullshit a million times. For a lot of them, all of this is a repeat. The second group of people is people who just fucking hate me. I really don't know if there's much I can do to get across to those guys. I would like to. I really do think a lot of the hate is misguided, but ultimately that's up to them, right? You know, I'm not magic. The third group is the massive, disaffected, disengaged, entertainment-hungry drama vultures who are just here because they think it's fun to watch people squirm. I see you. But welcome. A lot of this really has been like thoroughly addressed before, though, so I don't plan on doing much squirming, but there will be lots of self-debasement. So to you and to the people who just hate me, if you want to see self-debasement from me, there will be that. So you can look forward to that, I guess. Yeah, and I know that even making a video like this can come across as pretty damning, just innately, but I really do hope that you take it seriously and try to be charitable, if for no reason other than because it is a pretty serious topic. And last, the fourth and maybe the smallest group of people watching this video are people who are genuinely neutral, or maybe coming in with that fair mind to see what all the drama's about. Or maybe they're from the normie side of my audience. You know, they don't engage with the drama and the community stuff that much. I don't know. This will probably be a weird one for them, but nonetheless, welcome. It's a pretty wide range of people as audiences go, but I'll do my best to explain things and go through all the drama in a way that's clear and straightforward, but also doesn't drag on too long. Now, without further ado, let's get to the content. We'll start with the absolute worst of it, the monstrously stupid argument that I made way back when I first started streaming that has since haunted me and irreparably tarnished my reputation.
Okay. This argument that he's about to go into was the argument that I opened my video with, right? My understanding of the situation is that he was on a live stream with Vegan Gains and he was debating Vaush. And Vaush made this point about CP and child slavery are products that are made using child slavery. Someone left a comment on my video letting me know that I didn't fully understand the argument, which I totally believe. I'm willing to hear him out on this because I would really like to understand.
This clip is the one that I see cited most often when people are accusing me of being a pedophile. That's not even a little surprising to me, though. It sounds pretty bad.
In fact, this is going to be a real hot take. I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. actual child pornography.
Like I said, pretty bad. This clip is from right after I started streaming, so a significant portion of my career as a live streamer has been spent providing context for the clip over and over to many people and many audiences. I've addressed it so many times that it's turned into like a kind of running joke in my community,
It's
like
not a
a
joke.
rake that I'm cursed to keep walking into over and over, and it hits me in the head. I often see people outside of my community, people who have seen this clip but not seen me address it, mock the idea that any context that I or anyone else could provide could possibly explain away something that sounds that bad. When they see me or my fans say that this or any other clip has been taken out of context, it comes across to them as an effort to shoo away legitimate suspicion, chastising people for having an opinion on something that looks bad. Like, you see a clip that looks bad of me, and then I or a fan of mine comes in and we're like, no, you need to familiarize yourself with like 50 hours of stream lore before you can have an opinion on that.
That is something that I would like to own up to, that I am a very new watcher of Vaush. I don't even know that it's been an entire year yet that I have been viewing his content. It definitely doesn't feel like a situation that even having the context or having the lore could even make look better, because like what is there that justifies you saying something like that? And I'm just saying that from the perspective of like an audience member, right? Of like a fan. Of like, how am I supposed to continue watching you when I have heard you say that?
People weaponize calls for context in that way. So I don't fault others for being like kind of suspicious of that or not taking it very seriously. Some people are just going to tune out right there. Now, don't get me wrong. The clip is bad. It's rhetorically bad. It's logically bad. It's obviously optically bad. And the broader argument that it's pulled from are bad in all of those ways too. But as for what the clip and the argument that it's pulled from say about me, I would like to make the case, if I may, that it does implicate me, but not as a pedophile. Rather, as a fucking idiot, debate bro, brain poisoned jackass, because I took a perfectly fine argument. I think that, when I explain it, the argument itself will make perfect sense at least. And I ruined it with edgy, contrarian, devil's advocate nonsense. So let me explain. I had just started live streaming, and I was far more argumentative and belligerent and arrogant then than I am now, if you can believe that. Over the background of my mediocre Dead Cells gameplay, an argument with chat on the subject of foreign labor and unethical production was getting increasingly heated. Just in case anyone watching doesn't know, many of the products that we buy from American companies on American store shelves are produced through supply chains that take advantage of what we could consider unethical business practices, like bad workers' rights stuff. Often this takes the form of sweatshop labor, a practice near ubiquitous, for example, in the garment industry, where sewing work is difficult to fully automate. This isn't just a foreign problem, though. There are garment sweatshops where workers make less than $2 an hour, operating right now in Los Angeles, as an example. It's a broad issue. But American companies profit from even worse abuses. The mining of cobalt and the harvesting of chocolate and palm oil, those are three practices that are especially notorious for their use of child labor, frequently child slavery, frankly. In practice, often just child slavery. American companies profit enormously from this because these abusive work conditions, it keeps the cost of harvesting materials, of acquiring raw product, relatively low. And as a consequence of this, the suffering of children is built into the fabric of our economy, of exploited workers broadly, to be sure. But like I said, it's a widespread problem. I believed that in a just world, the American government would set a global standard for labor rights by barring companies from selling their products in the United States if they or other companies they bought their product from fell below a certain minimum standard for labor rights. I still think that would be great, by the way, as complicated as it would be to implement and as unlikely as it is to happen. It's a doable thing, That's not like there's precedent for that kind of action. It would make the world a better place. So anyway, there I was, belligerent, angry from arguing with chat. However much of a debate bro I'm known for being today, I swear to God, I was so much worse back then.
That was the thing that I actually really noticed when I was watching some of these older clips, is like that person speaking did not sound like the person that I was watching like a few months ago, And it is definitely very jarring, because this is the version of Vaush that I'm used to. So maybe it is possible that Vaush genuinely changed as a person, like recognized that the way he was behaving online wasn't conducive to the kind of career or the kind of presence that he wanted to have, right? Which, I guess you could look at both ways. You could look at it one of two ways, in that he noticed that there was something wrong in his behavior and he made efforts to be better, which is great. The other option is that he recognized that his behavior was bad, or that at least appeared bad, and that it would hurt his opportunities at making money online or getting to have this streaming channel, whatever. And he made efforts to hide his behavior in order to maintain that facade of his reputation. You can look at it two ways, and I'm still not convinced of which way it is.
I wanted to construct an argument that would effectively and succinctly convey the severity of the problem. Intertwined human suffering is with the regular products that we buy and use every day. Shock value was essential because I needed to prove how edgy and daring I was. And speaking of shock value, an example already exists of something so inextricably tied up in human suffering that both its production and possession are illegal: child sexual abuse material. If we already know something that harmful should just be excised from society, couldn't we do the same for products that we know are made with child slavery at the very least? The parallel felt clear to me, and I wanted to really drive home the hypocrisy of the people arguing against me, who said you were downplaying, I guess, the issue with the whole child slavery intertwined in our, economy thing. So, in fact, and this is going to be a real hot take, I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. Actual child pornography. How's that for a hot fucking take? Now, to clarify on this take, as I feel it necessary to do so, we do not, in this country, typically criminalize people who have procured media or resources which were the product of abuse. It is not illegal to own necklaces that have slave diamonds or whatever, what are they called? Blood diamonds? Yeah, all of our clothes produced by sweatshops, our computers, the silicon and lithium mined from literal fucking slaves. In our society, we have already deemed that people are not responsible for the mechanisms by which the media they consume and the content they engage with are produced. You like that argument? Ooh, you like that? You like that moral culpability? You're all worse than fucking CP owners, and I am too. Do you like that? No ethical consumption under capitalism. Shit sucks, right? But if we accept that argument for slave labor, then we definitely have to accept it for child pornography. Yeah, there you go. My dumb goal here was to spark indignant outrage, to make people who downplay the immorality of unethical supply chains to reflect on the harm they were enabling through comparison, or for them to, bluster and go, no, they're different. Child slavery is fine, actually, and look bad. It was meant to be like an invective, like something like, it's punchy, it gets right through to people. Obviously, it didn't work. The only person I succeeded in making look bad was me, and that wasn't one of the goals. So, yeah, no, pretty bad. Because I really want to make sure that I'm being clear with my thoughts here, because I don't like being misunderstood, and being misunderstood kind of feels like my job sometimes. Just in case the bad logic of my brilliant little devil's advocate it's not coming across, let me give you an example. Imagine that I was a vegan back when I started my channel, and I was angrily arguing with my audience about the hypocrisy of America making animal abuse a felony, but also allowing millions and millions and billions of animals to spend their whole lives in torturous captivity before being slaughtered for meat. I'm flustered, and I want to make a point. So I start saying that, hey, if we're all being morally consistent here, we wouldn't even have animal abuse laws, huh? Why protect animals at all, I would say? Since we're clearly so okay with them being tortured and killed en masse, why not be consistent and just do away with all animal abuse laws too, huh? Of course, in that example, I wouldn't really be arguing for the removal of animal abuse laws. I'd be pointing out an apparent hypocrisy in animal welfare norms with an abrasive devil's advocate. The point would be to get people to sort of like angrily confront my position or reflect on theirs. Likewise, in real life, 5 years ago, I wasn't actually arguing for the legalization of child sexual abuse material. I was pointing out an apparent hypocrisy in child welfare norms and our allowance of materials produced through the harm of children in our stores, with an abrasive devil's advocate.
I really appreciate that he provided an example, and that's more or less what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like Vaush is very well spoken, obviously very intelligent, and he has the ability to break down these bigger concepts in a way that does make sense. If we're going to go with the way that he's saying that what his argument meant, it would actually mean that he cares so much about child slavery, or child labor, that he would put it on the same pedestal as CP in the production of CP. And his problem is that when he had said this, he was a new creator, he was a young person who felt like in order to be noticed, maybe, he needed to say provocative shit. And I can definitely understand that. I was also a young person on the internet in the late 2010s, and I remember also falling into the trap of saying some really weird and provocative shit for the sake of it, because that's kind of what was happening on the internet at that time. Or, it was always happening on the internet at that time, but I just vividly remember it because it happened to me. That was my experience, right? I'm glad that he can at least admit that his rhetorical device was not a good one, that it didn't work. But I do better understand what his argument was supposed to be.
Advocate done by child slave, but whatever, that's just how the economy goes. Oh dude, whatever, we make computers, they look sick, bro, don't think about it. So that was the argument that I was making originally.
I don't know, me personally, I would have tried to find another example.
Me too. Me too, buddy. The reasons for this argument being rhetorically and optically bad are pretty obvious, I'd say, but I wanted to explain why it's also logically bad. The parallel between child sexual abuse material and commodities made with child labor is tenuous, mostly due to a huge gulf in personal moral culpability, right? I mean, hopefully that's obvious. It certainly wasn't to me back then. I still believe the presence of child labor in our supply chains is a massive issue, but, I've stopped making that point in such stupid, pointlessly abrasive ways. There's a sickness in the mind of the very specific kind of debate bro that I used to be, where you believe that if using the most inane, hyperbolic shock value arguments, it makes you seem smarter. I'm sorry. I can explain what I was thinking at the time, but I can't for the life of me understand what I was thinking, if that makes any sense. All edge and no point, truly. Oh, and to be clear, I didn't make that argument just once. Remember, the whole rhetorical strategy was edgy, abrasive bullshit designed to bait arguments, and it worked. I mean, arguments were had. You're a live streamer, you have a hot take or you make an abrasive argument. Chat brings it up in the future. You argue about it again. I'm sure there are a million clips of that argument from different streams, but it's all the same damn thing. It's like taking 500 photos of me getting in a car accident and then saying it's 500 different car crashes. It's all the same stupid fucking argument. Unfortunately, 5 years back, it took me a little while to catch on to how fucking stupid and self-destructive my edgy argument was, safe within the bubble of my then tiny community, where the only eyes I had on me were the eyes of my, 100 or so committed fans or whatever back then. I wasn't really seeing any negative consequences from employing this rhetorical strategy. I mean, it would bait arguments from chat, of course, like I got those disagreements, but that was what I was looking for. So I didn't interpret that as a sign of the argument itself being flawed. It wasn't until I brought it up in debate with Vegan Gains, a far larger YouTuber, that I realized how people outside of my community bubble perceived the argument.
Pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography, would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah, I think it's hypocritical. If I because I bought my computer and the silicon in it was farmed in Africa by slaves. If I can do that and that's legal and no one's going to call me out my shit, then yeah, I have to be consistent in that respect.
Okay, look, I think there's levels to this. So I wouldn't equate buying a computer to buying child pornography. I mean, it's in order to pretty much have a job anymore, you need a computer. So do you really think it's reasonable to equate something like buying something that might cause some amount of cruelty exploitation in the world that you need for your job, just to be able to not be homeless, to something that you're buying purely for very shallow personal pleasure that causes horrible, irreparable damage to somebody lifelong?
I mean, we can actually partition it out. I don't know how much child pornography goes on the market these days. I haven't exactly checked, but I'd be willing to bet that the total amount of suffering that goes into the child slaves that mine out like the silicon in Africa, in terms of me supporting that industry, I mean, that's pretty bad. And I didn't have to buy a computer this big. I could have bought something smaller. I could have bought a little Chromebook. I don't wonder how many more hours slaves had to mine up that silicon to justify me being able to own this. But I'd go with it too. Clothing I wear, put together by slave shop work or sweatshop workers. Sorry, glasses, like everything. And if you wanted to step beyond the slavery element, like all of the stuff that I buy, it goes towards corporations. I believe that wage slavery is unethical. The exploitation of workers, and everything you buy contributes to that, unless you're buying from a co-op.
Okay, well, look. There are I think we could both agree that reducing suffering in the world is a good thing, correct? Even if you can't get rid of all of it at once.
It's always a good thing to reduce suffering. Yes. It's insane to me that I needed that kind of external confirmation to understand how bad it looked, how bad the argument was. But I have a very low opinion of me in a lot of these older clips. It just makes me look fucking stupid, to be honest. As it turns out, when you're talking to other people and making arguments about ethical labor or labor laws or whatever, engaging in this kind of argument doesn't make people want to, they don't get blustered and confront you in a debate about labor laws. It makes them want to call you a pedophile, obviously. So yeah, that's the explanation for the argument. Like I said before, it does reflect really poorly on me, but only in regard to my intelligence and character, not any sort of paraphilia. The clip is from very early on in my career. I think the original stream VOD was actually lost when my Twitch channel was first banned, but while looking for video context to add, I ended up finding this ancient effort from a fan of mine, presumably, to provide context to that clip. I don't know who made this. I hope they're doing well. None of it is, yeah, I agree, none of it is ethical. But we've already made this social decision that people are not responsible for the systems by which the stuff they own is produced. We've already made that decision. You're right, but you're kind of revealing your power level. No, this is exactly what I fucking mean. I'm right, but I'm revealing my fucking pedo power level because I'm right. No, this is a moral inconsistency in society. The answer should be that all of these things are bad. Hopefully that makes what I was doing there a little more clear, even if the way I chose to do it was really, really stupid. So there you go. That right there, that's the basis of 90% of the pedophilia accusations that people make against me. Hopefully I explained it decently, in spite of the fucking Herculean effort I made 5 years ago to make it completely inexplicable. I'm so tired of explaining it. I sometimes see people say I'm always talking about child pornography, but what they're referring to when they say that is me defending myself from that clip, from people bringing it to me. It's like this nonstop. It's Sisyphusian, truly. I cannot tell you how much I hate the me in that clip. The amount of trouble he's caused for me. Honestly, a car crash would have been less trouble. I tell you, monumentalist. Give me a broken leg. I swear to God, it's so stupid. I don't want to explain it anymore. Please let this stand. as my explanation? Please, God, it's embarrassing. I look so stupid. Even with the charitable explanation, I look stupid.
I will accept. I will accept this argument because it does make sense. It checks out. And so far, we're doing good. But, like he said, this is only 90% of the basis of the accusations that are levied against him. And there is more stuff that Vaush needs to take accountability for. We still have quite a bit of ways to go in this video, so we'll see. And I have a feeling that we're going to be here for a long time.
Now, again, to be clear, I really, really don't fault people for thinking the worst of me on account of those clips. I really didn't do myself any favors in that regard, and I've been dealing with the social consequences of them for the better part of 5 years now, you know, of my poor rhetoric. I just want to make it clear that I'm not lumping everyone together in like a "you're bad faith if you criticize me" category. Of course, there are still people who act in bad faith. Not all the people who wanted to attack me were interested in being honest about it. I'd made it really easy for people to make, pedophilia accusations against me, but the problem was, once I stopped making the child labor argument, I stopped making the child labor argument, you know? I stopped. So folks went fishing for other stuff to throw at me, and a lot of it was really, really dishonest. One category of disingenuous pedophilia accusation that I find particularly maddening is when they're cut from a video in which I am clearly arguing that our society has a tendency to fetishize youth in girls and that it's bad. Essentially, I'll say, our society broadly has a serious problem fetishizing young girls, and people will look at that statement and they'll say, oh, he's projecting. You know, he's not talking about society, he's talking about himself, which is insane. You know, insane. Does that logic apply to all social critique? If I said that America has a problem with racism, for example, hypothetically, if you could imagine such a world, does that mean I'm projecting my own racism just innately? Here's an example of this exact thing happening live quite recently.
The average American man would be most attracted to. Which hypothetical strip club would be the most crowded if they all opened tomorrow?
I think it would be somewhere from 14. No, I think it'd be somewhere from 14 to 17. I don't think we've
This motherfucker wants to fuck 14-year-olds.
Okay.
That is a child.
What a crazy clip. That guy I'm talking to in that clip, Mr. Girl, is, well, if he's not a pedophile, he does an amazing impression of one. I'll say that much. And he spent that entire goddamn debate being a creepy piece of shit to me, asking me weird fucking questions. I think when he first got on call, he wanted to talk about how he thought he could have debated Hitler out of doing the Holocaust. You know, it started funny crazy like that, but over time it just got creepier and creepier. And eventually I just kicked him from the call in disgust. He's one of the reasons that I don't have a debating all comers policy anymore. You know, you got to filter some of these people. So, all right, where's the context, right? Well, here's a clip from that debate of Mr. Girl asking me that question the first time.
Here's a thought experiment. I'm gonna open a string of strip clubs in Las Vegas.
I just want to pop in real quick because I have to provide some kind of commentary. I can't just sit here and watch this video. That Mr. Girl motherfucker is fucking weird, okay? I don't know if he is in jail or not yet, but I feel like, you know, my intuition is telling me that that might be a place that he belongs. Allegedly. Like...
It's going to be called Mr. Girls, whatever you want.
Editing that portion of the video where I had to listen to that bit so many times, and it made my skin crawl. I just had to, like, take my headphones out and like just oh my god.
I'm gonna open a string of strip clubs in Las Vegas. It's gonna be called Mr. Girls, whatever you want Emporium. Okay. And in one strip club, the strippers are 25, 24, 23, 22, all the way down to infants. But each strip club, and this is a sovereign state, so there's no laws. In each club, everyone is the same age. Okay, so if you want to watch babies crawl around, or you want to watch 100-year-olds, we'll start at 100. So basically everybody, and everybody all the women on the planet have to work here. My question is, in America now,
who thinks of this?
Which club do you think would be the most popular if this were to open tomorrow?
In a sovereign state adjacent to America.
Yeah, and it's like, no one, identities are, there's no issues of social ostracization. Nobody knows, everybody's wearing whatever, disguises.
The closest argument you could make there, I think, is from European literature from ye olden days, and it seems like predation against girls spiked up around like 14 to 16. So if you could, if all the degenerate sex tourists...
Yeah, looking around you at America now. I want you to base this just on your sense. You know a lot of people. You talk to a lot of people about this. And we all...
You know, I haven't talked to a lot of people about this specifically. I'm going
to...
Okay,
well, we run in different circles, but based on your observations of American humans, which club is the most popular? Men, straight men are going, and they're women.
Culturally, I don't think that we've done anything to appropriately discourage that kind of predatory behavior towards girls. So my guess is that it would be somewhere between 14 to 17.
Mm.
I think the culturally
What if the one-way mirror? The girls don't know.
extreme.
The girls don't know that you're. Is it even predatory to go look at them? They don't know that you're looking at them.
I would say that
The
it's
one-way-
predatory.
It's a website where you can log in and look at locker rooms. Just forget the slavery aspect. You
I
can
would
lo-
continue to believe that's predatory. For
Yeah, for
multiple
sure. But a
reasons.
much harder type of predatory behavior to discourage if no one will ever know that camera was there.
If you put a camera in an underage girl's locker room and the police found it, I assure you that they would be able to very quickly, succinctly, and with great confidence explain to you what you did wrong.
All right, then I have to go take care of something. No, I'm just kidding. My question is, which club is the most popular? My question is, where do you think we're at? And I'm asking it in kind of a exciting way because we're in public. But where do you think we're
exciting?
at? What is?
I genuinely don't think that much has been done to culturally disbar the average modern guy from the attitudes that we had back in antiquity towards
so
women
what-
and attractiveness towards women.
And what number?
I think it would be
Do you
somewhere
not
from
wanna answer this
14.
question?
No, I think it'd be somewhere from 14 to 17. I don't
Which
think
one?
we've changed.
Those are big. That's a big
I
difference.
have no idea, and I couldn't even begin to think by which categories I would separate them.
Right.
But you're saying 14 to 17, and you will not. You won't pick a number
I will absolutely not pick a number within the range.
because you don't have a guess, or because you don't want to be clipped saying it.
Because I don't even know by what category you would distinguish into that group, and because I'm referring only to my feelings on other people's predilections, not to my own. So you're not asking me for my preference, you're asking me what I expect of the average American.
No,
A group of which
obviously
I have a
your
very low
preference is-
impression.
Right.
Okay, but you don't want to say the number.
I don't have a number. Do you have a number? Is there a number you're looking for?
I think it's 15.
Oh.
Well, I suppose we'll leave it to the
wow.
historians to judge.
Okay. So wait, no, that clip is manipulated because, like I said, I watched this over and over and over and over. And it jumps. The clip in my video jumps. So it is. I mean, obviously he's providing the context, but it is out of context. And oh my god, I can't. I'm going crazy. I'm losing my mind. Vaush pushed up against this man's thought experiment, which I feel like you should go to jail for having this thought. You know, I know we don't put people in jail for having inappropriate thoughts, but I feel like we should start with this man. I'm just saying. And almost I feel like when you have this juxtaposition of him talking to somebody who is really brazen about how he thinks about women, yeah, it does make Vaush look better.
Maybe 16. It might be. I think it would be 14 at first, and then it would move up once the novelty wore off. I think it would be 15 or 16.
Is this consideration in line with your desire to empathize with pedophiles, or is it something more personal than that?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you sound like a pedophile, not a person who wants to promote empathy for socially misaligned people.
Why do I sound like a pedophile?
Because you're dedicating a considerable amount of thought to the subject of what type of underage girl people would be most interested in.
What color? If you had to guess what color their underwear would be, Flash, what would you say?
Yeah, okay. You see that? You people ask for debates, and what do we get? I am explicitly talking about a widespread social failure to address, prevent, or discourage predation against young girls. Nothing about my language even remotely implies that I'm describing my own preference. I think you'd have to be really goddamn dishonest or stupid to take that as a mark against me. Or alternatively, maybe you don't think we have a broader social issue when it comes to the fetishization of young girls, and my belief that such a problem exists is just me projecting my own desires. You know, if you really think that, if you really don't think that broader social problem exists, then I think that's a mark against you, not me, personally, you know, with regards to being a suspect. Look, at this point, at least, ought to be taken seriously. We all have female friends who started getting catcalled when they were young. I mean, young. Teen is one of the most popular porn categories. Barely legal is a strip club advertising cliche, so common a lot of people don't even think about how fucking weird it is, you know? Clearly, a problem exists. I don't think it's a problem that exists inherently. I think it's a product of our constructed social environment, capable of being made better or worse through the influence of, you know, different ideological forces. One of the most shamelessly predatory, pedophilic ideas I've ever seen taken half seriously is the wall. You've heard of it. You know, not the Pink Floyd, the red pill idea that women become unattractive and lose all sexual value after the age of 30. You know, I know the harm of this specific idea is mostly hypothetical because the median believer in the wall is like a 14-year-old boy who doesn't talk to women anyway. But it's still an example of how political ideologies can influence the extent to which predatory attitudes against women are socially normalized. To make a change for the better, you know, you'd probably have to look into some kind of, feminism thing. You know, not to get political, but feminist writing on this specific issue, the social normalization of being creepy about girls, that goes back a really long time. So again, pointing that out, I don't think that's suspect. I think that's a good argument. Fuck me, dude. That is bad. That is really, really, really fucking bad. Holy shit. If the original movie actually comments on child sexualization, that would be like a movie about child sex trafficking, and the poster is like a pinup picture of a 14-year-old girl with a black eye or something. Holy fuck. I can't even begin to describe how tactless that is. What's the takeaway from this one? Like, I don't know. Don't
do that, Netflix? I don't even know. This is like, this is unfathomable to me. Does anyone else get the feeling that like men, at least in the West, are kind of like taught to be kind of a little pedophile-y a little bit with how much we're fetishizing young girls? Does anyone else kind of get that feeling a little bit, just a smidge possibly? Not like every guy's a pedophile, and I don't believe that, but like the way we hyper fetishize youth for girls is like really weird. In every aspect of our depiction of sexual relations between men and women, we almost always associate youth with desirability when it comes to women, but not just youth like earlier than like 40, you know? Because people before, I'd say like people like 20 to 40 are all like in a pretty conventionally attractive range. Sometimes beyond that, depending on, you know, a variety of things. But like the girls are never like 35 or 40. They're always 18. Not to mention like a ton of porn is like just turned 18, barely legal, you know? Wait, hold up your driver's license. We'll censor the fucking name, but yep, there it is. Turned birthday 2 days ago. Yep, like there's fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
Barely learned how to drive. Hey, thanks for picking me up. Yeah, it's my first day at driver's school. Like, it's crazy how we, how much we push this shit.
Same exact deal. Me saying there's a broader social problem and people saying I must actually be talking about myself. I can't believe people try to use this shit against me. Seriously, it's really frustrating. Oh, and as bad faith clip jobs go, this one is especially funny because it is literally cut from the video that I made attacking cuties. The movie. I've been on any drama YouTube years ago. You've heard people attacking cuties. The video is entitled "Netflix Tries to Capture the Pedophile Demographic with Mixed Results." The video does not contain an endorsement for the movie. It's pretty critical. So again, like it's like calling a guy anti-black because he ends a video on, I don't know, the history of the Confederacy by saying racism in America persists to this day, and the people are like, well, of course that means you're racist. It's just stupid. I mean, you can tell I find it frustrating from the way I'm talking. I think there is a very clear difference between examples that, or I guess evidence that people use against me, where I am legitimately saying really stupid shit, and then ones where people are just like desperately cutting any kind of clip, like, you know, like Frankensteining clips together and hoping that, you know, something incriminating comes out in post. There's a lot of that, unfortunately. All right, next clip. We've all jerked at Delali at some point or another. We have at some point in our lives been going fucking crazy on some hentai site, and we've been fucking stroking as hard and fast as we can, and then after we nut, we go back, look over our history chat, and we go like, oh geez, oh boy. Some of these girls look pretty young. Now, this one definitely sounds rougher than the last two clips, but it's, you know, it's a bit. It's a joke, a bad joke. I can explain it. I don't think that'll make it any funnier. The intended comedy element of an indiscriminate whirlwind masturbator being used to draw attention to a problem, that problem being the ubiquity of lolicon in hentai sites. I don't really know how anyone could get like a serious vibe from that, like there's any kind of like, you know, grave point being made. Again, it's not a funny joke at all. I mean, I cringe looking at it. It's great evidence against me if the point that people are trying to make is that I was or indeed still am cringe. So a point to their favor on that one, I guess.
Another thing leftists have pushed is the idea
No. See, okay. I don't like the explanation of that one. Number one, okay, Vaush. Genuine question. I don't exactly know when that live stream took place, but if you know that if you know that people think that you are, like, sus or that you might be a pedo, why would you make that joke? Why couldn't you just, like, state your... And it goes back to him being a younger person wanting to be provocative, and I completely understand that, and I think that in a way you do kind of have to give younger people the space to be stupid until they get that frontal lobe, right? So prefrontal cortex Vaush made those comments. God, the thing is though, we have evidence of the things that were saved on Vaush's computer. And it just, I don't know. I am not familiar with hentai. I mean, I know what it is. I've seen it, but I don't know the community or the culture around it. And I understand that there is a different culture around it. So my Western American brain is looking at something that is incongruent with my culture. And it doesn't make me feel good. You know, it gives me icky feelings. The fact of the matter is that 4 pieces of lolicon, which again is hentai of children, or beings that look like children, in sexually explicit sexually explicit images. It's fine that it's a joke, okay? I can accept that maybe it's a joke because I agree that it is incredibly cringe, and I have no idea why you would willfully volunteer that information unless you were trying to make a greater point. And if his point is that lolicon is so prevalent in hentai, wouldn't you be extra careful about the kind of content that you store and that you consume if you know it's such a problem? And then also there's an additional clip in my video, a couple of clips where he was able to identify lolly in from other artists or other characters, other shows. So I just find it, again, really difficult to believe that Vaush didn't know what he was looking at.
Pedophilia is just another sexual orientation,
Citation needed.
like being gay or straight.
Oh my gosh.
Stop discrimination.
Citation needed.
It's time to be more tolerant of demons who feed on kids.
I do take issue with the moral outrage here. Child sexual abuse is widely underreported. It's a huge problem. It's incredibly damaging to the psyche of young people, and as they grow older, it can lead to many negative mental health consequences. However, stigmatizing pedophilia to the extent that we are calling them demons probably discourages pedophiles, people who feel attraction towards children, from getting the help they could need to keep themselves from abusing children. By demonizing them to this extent, you are increasing the likelihood of child sexual abuse. Do not demonize pedophiles. Demonize child sexual abuse and encourage pedophiles to get help. Now, if you've got pedophiles who have never sexually abused a child, but they're advocating for it, they're like, yeah, I've never done it, but is there anything really that wrong with lowering the age of consent to 13? Then of course, fuck them. Like, fucking shut them up. Just fucking smack them. But by and large, statistically speaking, there are 370 people watching right now. I'd be willing to bet that at least 20 or 30 of them experience habitual sexual attraction towards children. It's surprisingly common. To those of you who do to an extent that you feel as though it may be like a problem, please, just get some fucking help, my dude. There's nothing wrong with you as a person. We can't help the shit that we're into. We can help our actions. There's nothing feels weird, man, about this. You can't help the things that you're into. If you realize as you're like 20 years old that you have a thing for kids, what the fuck do you do? Commit fucking Sudoku? Do you just stop existing right then and there? Do you toss yourself in front of a car? No. You have to live your life anyway. And you have to recognize, if you're a responsible person, like, hey, even if I just keep this to myself, like, this might affect people someday, you know? I should probably maybe see what I can do about that. Talk to somebody. Okay?
Man, can I just...
Okay. No, okay. Something that I feel incredibly passionate about is the safeguarding of children. I have lots of young children in my family. I am not a mother, but I feel for children because it's very apparent to me that as much as people say that they love their children and would do anything for them, our society isn't very good at making sure that people who do bad things to innocent children get appropriately punished for the things that they do. And there is a discourse on the left that makes me very uncomfortable because I feel so strongly about this issue. That there is a delineation between somebody who purely feels attraction to children and somebody who not only feels that attraction, but goes out of their way to engage in sexual behavior with children, which of course is illegal and wrong and morally detestable, right? And it makes me uncomfortable because it pushes a boundary that I have in my own mind, a bias that I have. Very often the case that we don't see people change, even after they go to prison or they're held accountable for their actions when it comes to these types of crimes. And it's not even just crimes against children, but it's crimes against adults as well. Sexual predators tend to reoffend over and over and over again until they end up in jail for life. And a lot of that has to do because we don't have access to the necessary mental health care that would be necessary in order to treat a condition like that. And the part of me, there is a part of me, deep down, that genuinely wants to believe that people can change and that people can be redeemed. And it's a critical aspect of my worldview to believe that people can change. It's very difficult to accept that somebody who feels attraction to children could really change and live their life like a normal person. The problem that I have with Lolicon, is that it's ultimately not that different from CP. And in my personal opinion, it's exactly the same, and it has the same outcomes. See, because these communities are so stigmatized, as they should be, it just feels wrong to say that we're not stigmatizing. Anyway, beside the point. These communities are very insular. Therefore, when they're talking to each other, they're not getting any perspective from the outside world. Nobody's coming in and telling them, hey, the ideas and the feelings that you're having are bad and wrong and will hurt somebody, even if that somebody is you. So they're not getting any feedback from any other people and essentially creating an echo chamber where they just embolden themselves. And eventually, after enough time of consuming this content, you become desensitized to it. And you need to seek out a greater thrill. It's kind of the same thinking as addiction. Like if you're doing drugs, you have to continuously up your dose to get that desired effect that you initially had. And the same logic kind of follows, or at least is said to follow, with things like Lolly and CP, that eventually the image is no longer enough. And I just think that, Vaush even made this point in one of the clips that I had shown, that, oh, look, guys, we made a lolly, but she's 28, so she's not really a lolly. It's just some sort of loophole that doesn't really fix the thing that you needed to fix, which is that you are attracted to the characteristics of children. And I'm not speaking directly to Vaush right now, I'm just speaking in general with people who enjoy that kind of content. And I don't like even having that loophole. And if that means that, hentai is more heavily policed or something, then so be it. Honestly, the entire adult industry needs to be more regulated and policed, and that is coming from somebody who was in sex work for quite some time.
How much I hate how my voice sounds in these old clips. So I think that I sound kind of stilted, and I think it's phrased a little weird because I just wasn't experienced at streaming back then. But yeah, the message seems fine. As I understand it, encouraging pedos to go to therapy is mathematically the most effective way of reducing the likelihood of children being harmed, which is the point, I would hope. It doesn't have the punch or the charm of the classic kill yourself debate tactic. Those elements are lacking admittedly, but my understanding is that that classic debate tactic also just tends to push them into really insular, like-minded communities where they're more likely to enable each other's worst elements. So I don't even know what in this clip implicates me, to be honest. But all right, enough with the clips that are easy for me to defend. Let's address the clip that I see second most often. It's probably my least favorite one because it is so stupid and so unnecessary, and the bad optics of it aren't even from the argument that I was trying to make. Here, enjoy the terrible clip.
Please, right now, uncuck your dumb shit, libcuck fucking SJW brains and recognize this empirically correct fact that I'm about to spit.
Listening
it is
to
possible
them, really listening closely.
For an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship, and for it to have positive outcomes on the child as well. That is possible.
Man, look at how cool and logical I am, calling people libcucks for having the audacity to take issue with anything that I'm saying there. My IQ must be massive, the way I'm willing to, and this is the charitable take here, saw my own legs off at the knee, optically speaking. No points for guessing, this clip's from 2019, same as the fucking child labor argument, so same era, same brain. Before I can explain what was going on here, we have to finish the point that I was making, because this is a really nasty clip.
It is possible for an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship, and for it to have positive outcomes on the child as well. That is possible. However, categorically, we discourage those relationships because as a rule, it is substantially more likely that enabling them would cause harm in society. That's the difference between act and rule utilitarianism. An act utilitarian would say, oh, this is an instance where it was good for the adult and the minor to have sex. That would make it a good action. But the rule utilitarian, which is what I am, would say, even though that individual outcome was good, the act was still bad because in general, in a broader application, for adults and children to have sex with one another leads to horribly destructive outcomes. For that reason, it is an unethical act.
Look at that. Whoever cut this clip ended it right before I said, but really nasty work. And I clearly don't need the help making myself look terrible. So, all right. What's going on here? What point am I clearly failing to make? And why did I say...
I have to listen to that again.
Another thing Lefty said push is the idea that...
Did I say any of that terrible shit? What I'm trying to explain, poorly, mind you, is the difference between act and rule utilitarianism. They're two different ways of understanding what's right and what's wrong. At least that's what I thought back then. To understand what I was thinking at the time, I'm going to have to explain this in the context of my past self's, like sophomoric Dunning-Kruger-esque understanding of utilitarianism. And back then, as I understood it, act utilitarians decide if an action is moral by assessing the outcomes of that action, right? So you throw a brick at a person, it hits them, it hurts them, that's a bad outcome. Okay, so don't throw bricks at people. And rule utilitarians do this while also considering the value of broader judgments or rules that might consider an action moral or immoral by default, based on a general judgment of the expected outcomes. So we have rules against throwing bricks at people, not because the outcomes are always bad. I mean, you could miss, for example, and not really do much of anything, but we still have rules, laws against that, because the expected outcome of throwing a brick at a person is bad, averaged out, and you want to prevent people from doing that thing generally, rather than just like letting people hope that the individual outcome of a specific thrown brick might be good. Does that make sense? Well, again, none of this is a good understanding of utilitarianism, so I'm trying to explain how I thought about it. I know. You'll have to read up on the subject elsewhere. Don't get your normative ethics lessons from me, please God. So let me continue with the distinction. To keep with the theme of bricks, we would consider it morally wrong to toss cinder blocks off of a highway overpass. I think most people would agree that's bad. It's possible, however incredibly unlikely, that doing so might actually end in having a positive outcome. Maybe the cinder block, it goes through the windshield and it smashes the face of a kidnapper, and the car crashes and the kidnappee is able to escape to safety, right? I mean, that's a morally good outcome from the action, So the question is, then, is an action morally wrong if its expected outcome is overwhelmingly likely to be bad, but it somehow, just through sheer chance, ends up not being bad, Is it morally wrong to drunkenly drive through the front doors of a school if the only person you hit is, by sheer coincidence, about to do a school shooting? No, I know. You have to understand, these are the high IQ moral conundrums that only the smartest debate bro YouTubers can even hope to grapple with. At any rate, in the full clip, I'm clearly siding with the rule utilitarian argument here, that all of these actions would be immoral regardless of outcome, because categorically the harm is... We're engaging with my understanding at the time. I feel so bad. I know more about the subject now than I did then, so I feel like I'm re-explaining bad logic. But look, two things set me up to fail here. Well, one thing did, the thing being me, but I set myself up to fail in two ways. My aforementioned tendency to engage in pointlessly edgy contrarian, ooh, the normies won't like this one, bullshit hypotheticals, and an extremely broad definition of can have good outcomes. Yeah, I've already addressed this debate bro brain poison before, so hopefully it's recognizable here, those tendencies, in the same way that it was with the child labor argument. I'm shooting myself in the foot in the exact same way with the same personality gun. The reason I hate this clip, myself in this clip, most of all, is because this argument I was having with chat wasn't even about child sexual abuse. It wasn't relevant. It was completely irrelevant to the point that I was making. It's just shock value nonsense. All I'm really doing is conveying an extremely intro to normative ethics understanding of consequentialism. If you were in an intro to normative ethics class, you'd probably get yelled at by the professor for attempting anything even like this argument. But leaving that aside, and because it's completely irrelevant, I can't even explain my thought process very well. It just looks terrible, even though in the full clip I'm explicitly stating that child-adult sexual relationships are categorically wrong. It's a completely unforced error. I did this to myself. Also, with regards to can have good outcomes, this is like a fridge temp IQ element of arguing normative ethics. If you're willing to argue like a fucking idiot, as I clearly am, literally anything can have a good outcome in some specific scenario. Murdering an innocent person, well, what if someone put a gun to your head and said they murdered 2 innocent people if you didn't murder 1? Right. Now murdering that person actually has a good outcome because with 2 possible paths, one in which 1 person dies, one in which 2 people die, you made the path where only 1 person dies, so you basically save the life of a person. Woo, there you go. Nothing's inherently wrong, context. The asteroid hitting the planet would be bad. Well, what if it prevents it from hitting a bigger planet with more people? Child-adult sexual relations? Well, what if aliens threaten to blow up the whole planet, etc., etc.? I know. It actually is that stupid. It wasn't even the point I was trying to make. It's just that, nothing is inherently wrong. It depends on the outcomes style of faux intellectualism was a pretty big feature of how I constructed arguments and made points back then. And, here's it combining with that tendency to reach for the edgiest possible subjects and comparisons. And it really fucks me over. I know there are probably hundreds of examples of me doing this, but with murder or domestic abuse or any other just edgy topic going, oh, you normies in my chat, you think that anything is inherently wrong? Well, let me construct a hypothetical for you that you won't be able to grapple with. You see, because I'm smart, I know that actually, what if this thing happened? I really don't blame people for thinking less of me for that clip. It's just really bad. If nothing else, my hope, this is the goal that I'm trying to convey. Don't judge me for any kind of paraphilic interpolation of this. Judge me for being a fucking idiot. That's what I want you to do. I'll expand it. Judge my audience back then for watching me. I shouldn't have gotten any viewers back then. I was so stupid. Unfortunately for me, my presence online dates back way farther than the creation of my channel, which means people interested in finding examples of me saying stupid shit have a pretty wide range of material to choose from. Before I had a channel or was even known as Vaush, I was a frequent and notorious shitposter in the community of a streamer called Destiny. I know, that's why I am the way I am. I had been in his community for a long time, really long, and I really enjoyed...
Okay, so I think now that he will be addressing some of the other information that I found that was in my video, and I am really curious to see how he explains that, because to me that was very damning as well. And to be charitable, to Vaush, young Vaush, 21 years old on the internet back in 2015. The election was coming up and Donald Trump was there and everyone was an anti-SJW, or at least that's what it seemed like. And I can imagine that some of the things he said were definitely just like, LOL, I'm so fucking, bleh, right? Like, chud type guy. And I am willing to accept that perspective on it. But why so much that? Why so much CP and pedophilia? Why? Like, even at my absolute edgiest, and this is just anecdotal information, so take it for what it's worth, but even at my edgiest, I would have never said any of the things that Vaush said. And again, I'm a completely different person with completely different experiences and perspectives and everything like that, but just... the way I see it, most normal people understand that that is something that you just don't make light of or say anything in a way that could suggest that you are making light of it, because we've all just sort of like socially accepted, well, most of us, and the people who haven't are the people who are the problem. That is like the worst thing that you could possibly be in society. It's the worst thing that you could possibly do to anyone ever in their whole life, in your whole life. And to be so quick to make jokes about it, or to make comparisons, or to build entire rhetorical devices around it, seems really strange. But again, I'm willing to accept that that was just the most provocative, extreme thing that he could find to make a comparison against. It's not great, but given the culture that he would have been in around the time, it is believable.
The edgy, irreverent, debate lord culture of his Discord server. So let's look at some of the stupid, edgy, irreverent shit I said 6 years ago there that people have since screenshotted out of context in the pursuit of calling me a pedophile. So this is a perfect example of context being maliciously stripped from a screenshot in order to make me look bad, even though I'm right, and it's not even controversial. I'm uncontroversially right, I hope. The conversation was about media and LGBT representation. Here's the gist of it. So coming-of-age stories are really common. Like a young person, they go on an adventure, they meet people they like, maybe they fall in love, they slay a dragon, whatever. Really, really, really common type of story. One of the main types of stories, even. And one of the biggest culture war talking points back in 2017, and I guess still now today, is that kind of story is weird and pedophilic, and I guess the modern term would be groomery, I don't know, if the protagonist isn't straight. Right? So their argument was, you can have a story where a young man goes on a journey and falls in love with a girl and everything's fine. But if a young man goes on a journey and falls in love with a guy, then it's weird and it's gross and it's different, and that's sexualizing them because young people can be straight, but they can't be gay, because that's weird. That means they've been abused or whatever. That's the argument that I was pressing against, and hopefully everyone watching understands it's a ridiculous and homophobic and, irrational argument. It's a stupid double standard, but that's what I was pushing back against. The exploring sexuality there in that context means it being incorporated as a plot element, like in every story, right? The Last Airbender, Aang likes Katara. Spoilers. That's sexuality. That's heterosexuality, I believe, is the term for it. In Teen Titans, Robin, like Starfire, not Raven, right? Starfire, whatever. Like normal, uncontroversial. Homophobes will say like, oh, well, actually, it's bad if it's if young people can be gay, even though everyone knows they can be. Like it's. I have a feeling the person who clipped this to like use it against me wouldn't even disagree with the argument I'm making, because a lot of these like really bad faith clip jobs come from people who are ostensibly left leaning, which makes me wonder like if they don't understand they're doing the same thing that like the conservatives they would otherwise disagree with would do. I don't know. It's really, really, really frustrating. Nobody disagrees with me on the argument that I'm making here. I hope if I had only known then what my future would hold, then maybe I would have optically workshopped it a little more. On to the next one. Okay, so this one actually is bad, and I've apologized for it a few times. Basically, here I'm doing that thing that guys do where, a hot female teacher will be arrested for raping a student, and the guys in the Facebook comment section will be like, where was she when I was that age? Could have used me some of that. And basically, like, the thing they do where they downplay and trivialize the sexual abuses of the teacher because they personally think it would have been cool if they could have slept with their hot teachers back when they were 14. And yeah, when I was 14, I also wanted to fuck my hot teachers, obviously. But 14-year-olds are idiots. Their interests, desires, and preferences shouldn't really be accounted as a solid moral argument to anything. So this screenshot isn't really missing any context. It actually is shitty, but I've since come around on this, and I've recognized how bad it is to downplay or idealize that kind of thing. So, I've been consistent about that for years now on my channel. Not much else I can do. All right, next one. All right, so this one looks bad. I think this is probably like one of the other things that gets used against me the most often. It is mostly just stupid in the same way that the previous, like, terminally online debate-brained tendencies we've seen.
Okay, this one is a little bit longer, so I'll read it to you. It says, the way I see it, the age of consent exists out of respect for the numerous power imbalances older people have over younger people. As those imbalances, or at least some of them, are readdressed, as those imbalances, or at least some of them, are addressed through the advent of socialism, the age of consent should therefore be lowered. Okay, before he jumps into it, one thing that I will elaborate on, or at least point out, is that the age of consent is not explicitly like a sexual thing, right? The age of consent, I mean, that means like a lot of things. When you become 18 and you're legally an adult, then you can sign contracts, you can rent your own apartment, you can, in some places, you can buy a gun, you can buy cigarettes, you can, do all these other things that previously as a minor you weren't able to do, and it's not just sex.
Have been stupid. My argument was that under socialism, an economic system that I don't believe exists or has ever existed, you could defensibly adopt an age of consent set to the same level as it is currently set to in England or France. Another pointless intellectual exercise conducted, I assume, because I and a lot of other people in the Discord server believed arguing controversial topics through inane hypotheticals made us cool and smart. Wow, good thing that didn't carry forward into my streaming career. I think my logic was, no, I know what my logic was. It was that the idea that economic disparities are a primary element of the power imbalance between adults and minors, and that removing that imbalance through total economic equality would rectify a part of the power imbalance. It's a stupid argument. I definitely don't agree with it anymore. I probably didn't agree with it, like, very shortly after I made it, because I was arguing about it. It's pretty easy to poke holes in that one, I gotta say. Economic disparities are present in couples of literally every age, right? The power imbalance between adults and minors is more developmental and social. So the argument was stupid and meaningless, yes, but you have to understand that to the mind of the terminally online debate bro, the hotter and less necessary the take, the cooler you are for making it. Great stuff. I've done myself nothing but good service in the pursuit of all these excellent arguments that needed to be had. I think that's it for the Discord screenshots that I can meaningfully add context to. Like ones that I think are substantive enough to warrant any kind of explanation. The others are fake, like faked, like photoshopped or whatever, or so insubstantial that addressing them feels pointless. I want to give you an example of what that so often looks like, though. So here's one so stripped of context that I don't even remember what the conversation was about. Yeah, I see so many attacks against me substantiated by evidence like this, stuff so insubstantial you would have to already dislike me to buy into it. Leaving aside the fact that, like, if you're screenshotting a message so selectively that you remove
everything,
like not only literally all the surrounding information, but the image exclusively contains a single sentence. I mean, Jesus, like, if that's the standard for making a person look bad, you can make anyone look bad. Like, it's incredibly easy to make people look bad if that's the standard. But the one sentence that remains is literally a stock joke. It's wry sarcasm, oh wow, what did Benito Mussolini ever do to you? Wow, what did arsonists ever do to you? Wow, someone got murdered in your town and you think that's bad? Hold on there, buddy. What did murderers ever do to you? Like, the joke only works if the person making it assumes everyone present already knows the group being referred to as bad. Nobody actually says that when they're defending a group, like, sincerely, like nobody, okay. It's a stock joke. Okay. I don't want to be annoying by overstating this, but attacks against me are given a lot of perceived legitimacy by the sheer volume of evidence. But if you actually look into that volume, a lot of it is just nothing. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to see some gigantic ultimate compilation of evidence against Vaush with 100 links. And then you look into them and fully, like, 90% of those links are just nothing. Sheer filler, completely meaningless. But to everyone else, it might as well be 100 bulletproof accusations because they're never actually going to look at them. I'm not just saying that. I've been online for a while. I know how internet drama works. You hear about a person being bad. You hear about them being bad so many times. People say, oh, look, here's the evidence of it's a big, like, you think everyone reads those big Twitlongers? All those big documents, those 18-page Google Docs that people drop with all the evidence of this and that? Most people don't read all of that. For the most part, if there's a lot of evidence towards a person being bad or a lot of perceived evidence, I don't think that's nothing. But I don't want to, I can't, like, we can't pretend that it's not impossible to pack a bunch of sawdust in with the grain, And I think that oftentimes I am either responding to people who have a couple of very pointed criticisms, almost always the child labor argument thing, which I've talked about, of course. But the more frustrating one is like sometimes, you know, you see people saying stuff about me and then you turn and look behind them to see what like evidence they've mounted. And a lot of it is like nothing. And I feel like if you could tell them like, hey, look, turn around, like look at what you're using. Do you not think it would be good for you to stand by any of these criticisms? Or, yeah, my frustration here is clear. I don't want to oversell it. I have said legitimately stupid stuff. You know, I'm not trying to deny that or downplay that. I'm only saying that it makes it more difficult for me to address or give context to those things, give people the opportunity to decide for themselves with the real information how they feel about me, when it's all being kind of, you know, buckshotted at me in a big cloud of nonsense. Right. I don't want to harp endlessly about that nonsense because I feel like it does take away from the substantial stuff. But like,
yeah, okay. In the time that I've watched Vaush, I have not heard him make that argument. Again, which is why it was so shocking. I appreciate that Vaush has provided the context, especially about the Discord messages. And I do feel like, you know, putting myself in his shoes, at that time I can kind of understand like why he would have said some of the cringy shit that he said. It's because he's a young, immature person who didn't quite understand the gravity of the ramifications that would come back if anybody had seen those messages or his words out of context. And that seems to be exactly what is happening. I'm experiencing so many feelings watching this that I'm having a hard time conceptualizing all of them. Please forgive me.
Look at this. Like look at this. This is like here's a screenshot. Here's the kind of shit I see. Like what does this mean? You know, why do I see this included as what did I mean here? I don't know. How is this supposed to implicate me? Why is this being presented as evidence that I'm a pedophile? Like Jesus. Look at this one. I wrap up my afternoon classes. I get back home to my computer. I open Discord to find the brain geniuses of Destiny's community having a spirited and extremely necessary debate on the subject of sex bots that look like children. So I sigh deeply, bring my fingertips to the keyboard, and type, "This is why I come here. My professors never want to talk about pedophile sex bots." I mean, the only thing I'm doing here is mocking the topic being discussed, which was, I feel, appropriate. This was all the way back in 2017, so if nothing else, you can see the vat my brain was stewing in before I went on to make my channel and immediately kneecap it with a meaningless, counterproductive, pointlessly edgy devil's advocate. There's constructed social environments for you. Again, I'm not saying that there's no legitimacy whatsoever to people being critical of me. It's just, you know, a lot of stuff gets thrown my way. So after all that, now we finally arrive at this most recent drama, the incident that lit a fire under Drama YouTube and is, to my mind, the only thing I've done in the past 4 years that actually looks bad. It's pretty fucking embarrassing, to say the least. So there I was, streaming a few weeks ago, browsing a men's fashion site. I wanted to look at an image more closely, so I right-clicked to open the image in a new window, but then accidentally instead clicked the Save As tab in the right-click drop-down menu. Now, because I am, as has been extensively demonstrated in this video, a fucking idiot, my preferred strategy for keeping my desktop clean is to keep a single big folder called To Be Sorted, where every image, document, music file, whatever I happen to download gets sent. This is an insane thing to have as a live streamer, but, you know, there you go. It's me. So I hit Save As, and a half second later, a preview window of the folder and its contents popped up on stream. And now, of course, that folder had porn in it. So I immediately ended the stream and deleted the VOD. Even if it weren't just embarrassing to make a mistake like that as one of the largest political live streamers on the platform, it's TOS. You got to delete the VOD. So I stream with no delay, and folks are always screen capturing the feed. So I knew the contents of my To Be Sorted folder and the preview window were irrevocably public knowledge. But to be honest, that didn't really bother me too much. It was embarrassing, sure, but mostly because it made me look like a careless idiot, not because I was ashamed of the, like, furry, demon, monster, GF, big dick porn stuff I knew I had. You know, I rambled about liking all the...
No. Okay, no. 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 I do not accept this. Okay. And it's not even because I want to hate Vaush. Because clearly, I don't hate Vaush. I don't hate him as a person. I have no reason to hate him or to spread hate or to convince other people to hate him, but I simply refuse to accept this. Because why in that folder did we not see anything other than explicit images? And also, the categories of the files were all of a sexual nature. They all contained sexual content. Not all of it was lolicon, at least to my understanding. There have only been 4 pieces of confirmed lolicon in that file. But if that's true, Vaush, then why is it just that it happens to be the only thing that people saw was the porn? And I don't know, maybe it's just because he went on a shopping spree recently, and that was the most recent thing that he downloaded, I guess? But you have to understand that does not look okay. This is not okay. Like, I don't accept this.
Stuff on a careless idiot, not because I was ashamed of the, like, furry demon monster GF big
That's
dick
not
porn
all
stuff
that was in
I knew
there.
I had in there. You know, I rambled about liking all that stuff on stream before, not a secret. And I thought, you know,
No.
maybe, in a way, this fuck up would come across kind of charming. You know, like, that's my streamer, that fucking idiot right there. My community was already making a big joke of it by the time I went live. On it. Of course, I knew as soon as the folder opened on stream that it would be pretty easy for people to lie about what it contained, to stir up drama or cause me trouble or for any other reason. So when later on in that stream, 1 or 2 people came into chat and they said, hey, there was lolly in there, you know, I figured they were just causing trouble and I banned them. Of course, we know where this is going. By the next day, I had learned from what felt like the entire goddamn internet that 2 of the images in my folder preview window were actually from a well-known lolicon artist, and therefore definitely intended to be lolly shit, which has to be the worst possible way to find out about that sort.
It was actually more. It was 4, and I have not heard him mention the images of that VTuber, who also looks very young and was in a very explicit picture. I've seen heavily censored versions of all of these images and can confirm that it's some of the most disturbing shit that I've ever seen in my life, even heavily redacted. And I hope to fucking God that I am not on a list somewhere. If one of these, like, Surfshark VPN people want to sponsor me, they wouldn't ever, but if they did, it would be really helpful right about now, actually. Thanks.
It's to be sorted. I'm not arguing this with you guys anymore, okay? Yeah, we get it. The most potent roasting, you know, oh, well, why even say, I don't want to argue with you guys about it, okay? Because it's a to be sorted folder, which had the taxes in it, you know, whatever. Also, which need to be sorted. I don't get what's complicated about it. Anyway, of the images that showed, 2 of them were from the same artist. 2 of them, those from that artist, that artist turned out to be a lolicon. One of the 2 images, and unfortunately talking about this is always like a double-edged sword because I can't show to defend myself, nor would I encourage you to go look it up because this is a lolicon artist, so I don't like want to direct you to that, you know? But one of the 2 images from this lolicon artist, okay? To be clear, one of them flatly did not look like lolicon. I'm sorry, you can say it's offensive. I think that's bullshit. I literally went back and looked. She's like 6 heads tall. She literally apparently the reason why people have said that is because it's a drawing of
Holy fuck. What is
VTuber.
happening?
And the VTuber is usually drawn as a lolly. But in that case, that's blaming me for a drawing that's not the drawing that was in there. So I completely reject that line of logic. It just looked like a normal drawing.
It's me from the future again. I discovered that Vaush actually did mention the VTuber who was found in those files, and he himself said it, that she is typically depicted as a lolicon character. And I have not the slightest idea what would make what he had any different than from how she is typically portrayed. Because she looks like a 13-year-old girl performing an explicit act. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but this one does not hold because I mentally scarred myself.
Now, obviously, the accusation here isn't just that I had those images saved. That part's true, not really an accusation, but also that I must have known that they were lolicon and saved them because they were lolicon. Now, the obvious and predictable but nonetheless true response from me is that no, I didn't know that, and that must not have been the impression I got from those 2 drawings, because if I had gotten that impression, then I wouldn't have saved them, you know? I mean, drawings are abstractions, and art styles and body proportions vary massively, even for characters that are unambiguously adults. That doesn't mean lolly shit isn't a thing or a problem. I've bitched about it being a problem, like, a lot on stream. It just means that carelessly or inattentively failing to notice it isn't exactly impossible. I know what some people are going to say, you know, no, you must have known. There's no way you didn't know. And like what am I going to do? Make a fucking evidentiary argument here? You know, like, I'm not putting up the images so we can argue about the pixels or the proportions or whatever. I know fully well that like 99.9% of people who have heard about this drama haven't seen the images, nor do I think those people should go looking for them, obviously. So it's pretty much entirely a take me at my word or don't kind of situation where people are free to lie about the drawings, or as I've already seen on Twitter, just post other really bad-looking shit and say that's what I had in my folder.
No.
There's not much I can do about it, right?
No. I have lost sleep. I've lost sleep. Because this is so disturbing. And, like, they were heavily censored pictures. But it doesn't take much work to piece together what is supposed to be happening, and it's fucking weird. And something that I didn't mention in my first video is that it is actually being speculated some of these images were AI generated. And there's a lot of controversy around using AI in general. But the possibility, the sheer possibility of somebody, Vaush, or anybody, typing what you would have to type in a bot to get that result is crazy. And I will be charitable to Vaush, because why else did I go through the torture of looking at these images unless to be informed as to what we were dealing with. Not all of them were like these tiny little girls, and there weren't even like, I wouldn't even say tiny, like childish. There's some weird stuff, and that's all I can say. I'm not gonna describe it. I'm not gonna put myself through that. I'm not gonna put you through that. But this is hard. This is hard explanation to accept, having that information. And I do not encourage anybody to seek out those images, even the censored ones that I saw, because it's fucking weird. And the fact of the matter is that Vaush even said it himself, that he has been very adamant that this is a problem, and that you have to be careful in the kind of hentai, or the kind of hentai that you consume, because it is so prevalent in that community. I don't know. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, because we live in a time where people are more sexually liberated, where we have a lot less inhibition than we used to, and I do think that that's a good thing, because it has guaranteed groups of people in our society rights and privileges that everybody else had before, that they unfairly did not. So I'm not saying as a whole that sexual liberation is bad, and I never would, right? But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, is it good? Is it normal to have folders of porn on your OneDrive with that much stuff, so much so that you like can put it into your own categories? Like, aren't there entire websites that already do this for you? Or was he specifically going out of his way to create a file of content that he knew would be safe and not lolly? And then the other clips of him successfully identifying lolly, I don't know. One thing that I'll bring up as well, that the thumbnail of one of his files that had like a preview of an image that later turned out to be that really childish looking Victorian doll angel character. That TV series that it's from is TVMA rated, so it's not like a TV show that's geared towards children. It's obviously got somewhat of like an adult connotation to it. It all kind of comes back to the optics of it, which, as we've gone through this video, we understand that optics don't always appear to be everything that they aren't always everything that they appear to be, right? And I'm willing to accept that, and I'm willing to accept the other arguments, and I want to be 100% clear that I do not think that Vaush is an actual pedophile, like somebody who would actually go out and hurt children. But I think it's really irresponsible to have a platform as large as he does, and he even admitted it himself that it was a really stupid and careless thing to do. I think it's really, really horrible that people were exposed to that kind of content, and more, I'm questioning why this is even a joke in his community. Like, why would he be so casual about the way that he feels about having sexual feelings toward animals, which is something that I didn't really go into so much in my original video, because I felt like it distracted from the bits of lolly. And what I had kind of noticed was Vaush really leaning into that aspect of it, of the horse stuff, because that's been a common meme, I guess. I'd never, ever heard about this meme, and it's really strange. Yeah, and I feel like he was trying to use that as, again, somewhat of a distraction away from the other more suspicious content that he had on that file. And I don't know. I we were doing okay until we got to here, but I just don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
It's all totally unfalsifiable, and people are going to make whatever assumptions and inferences they want to make. All I can really say is that I didn't notice the problem while saving the drawings, the same way a person could fail to notice any element of any drawing if they were careless or inattentive or distracted. Chat also pretty much immediately clocked 2 other drawings in the folder preview window as being AI art, something else I didn't notice, and they gave me plenty of shit for that too, because I'm not a big fan of AI art. I think I've done a good job of demonstrating a tendency towards carelessness, if nothing else. So leaving that stupid, least charitable argument aside, someone might then ask, okay, I get it. It's possible to make a mistake like that. Why then would you save the images? And what about them did you like? And look, there's really no way of saying this without sounding crass or flippant or whatever, but it's already pretty revealing video. There's actually a very clear and simple explanation for why, for not just those 2 drawings, but in fact all the drawings in that folder and all my porn tastes generally. And it's an explanation that is extremely well known and well substantiated. I'm a size queen. I like big dicks. Yeah, I was looking through drawn porn like furry or hentai or whatever else. I saw big well-drawn dicks. I thought, cool, and saved the drawings, then never looked at them again, as evidenced by the fact they are in a big dump folder literally called to be sorted. That's, that's the extent of the consideration that I gave those 2 drawings before my community and then the entire fucking internet hopefully corrected my mistake. It's hard to even say anything about it. 5 seconds of, ooh, nice dick, cool line art, saved, and it's a whole discourse. I wish I had an answer that was more satisfying, but really for something like this, I feel like people are going to believe what they believe. I do think there is a real argument to be made about carelessness, especially with regard to lolicon and its seeming omnipresence in the anime community. You don't have to know much about anime to know that's an issue with it. I find it repellent, and I've been bitching about it for years. Plenty of that bitching has been on stream too. But it's possible to find something repellent while also not being perfectly vigilant about it. Especially in art where stylization and abstraction can kind of, cloud awareness and judgment of the extent to which any artists you follow or people in the community might be doing sussy shit, right? Pardon me for taking my most indefensible position yet on this, in this video. In the history of my channel, I actually do like some anime, and there's a lot of really good shit out there in the anime community broadly, and then a lot of the sick anime babes getting railed on Twitter. I'm sorry, like, often that is also cool. And I hate the fact that, the pervasiveness of lolicon means that the entire community is tainted, basically, right? I don't like the fact that, like, you could be looking through what looks like a bunch of totally, like, normal, fine, cool babes getting railed by big dicks, whatever you're into, while also feeling like you have to be vigilant that in this incredibly normalized process, some of these drawings might be of characters that are canonically underage, or that, like, an artist who generally draws in a kind of, like, cartoony style might be fine, but then another artist does that, but then they're, like, actually drawing like they're meant to be teenagers or whatever. I don't like it, and it's a normalization issue, and I think one of the best ways you could deal with it is by being aware. I'm not perfectly aware. Fucked up. This wasn't the first time that I fucked up in this specific regard. After the whole child labor argument saga, people went through a bunch of, like, likes in an old public Twitter or, porn account that I had, and over, like, thousands of liked furry big dick monster girl images or whatever. I think they found one that was like the character was meant to be a teenager, and it's not surprising to me that might happen because I'm running between.
It was a couple. It wasn't just one instance. It was a couple instances. It was like a couple different sets of photos that he had been found to be liking.
So I went back and looked at that screenshot that I found from Vaush's old Twitter where he was liking pictures. Now this is different from the other account where his name was like Vautism Speaks and his profile picture was of a horse. So on that other Twitter that I showed in my video, he was found to be liking several pictures of underage characters. One of them was Connie from Steven Universe. I've never watched Steven Universe. It's a little after the time that I would have been into cartoons. So I Googled Connie from Steven Universe, and what would you fucking know, dude? She's a fucking child. Like, literally a fucking child. So him downplaying this Twitter thing just feels not great. I don't know how to feel about that.
As far as liking the pictures of Connie goes, there is an argument that you could make that because Vaush is an older person, he's older than me by a couple of years, that he's also unaware that Steven Universe is a child's cartoon that features children, and he saw an aged up picture of Connie, and he didn't know where she was from. He didn't know that she's canonically a child, and he liked the image without having that greater context, like he's saying. So
even though he was found to be liking these images, we still don't know what the intention of his inner person was.
So yeah, I feel like he's kind of trying to downplay that. Again, I never needed to know this about Vaush or any creator. I never wanted to know this. The CIA could never willfully get this information out of me if I was Vaush. Part of accepting that we're all different kinds of people is accepting that Vaush has got wildly different tastes than I do, or that I would find acceptable, but it's not really my place to say anything, and I'm not really the type to be a pearl clutcher. I feel like this is the most pearl clutching I've ever done in my life, because it's just so, it's riding that line of like, it just looks too bad to explain your way out of. I really want to believe Vaush. I do. I want to believe that Vaush didn't know that those images were what they were. I just don't know how it's possible, because Grant, I'm not in this community. I'm not into hentai. I'm not into that. I have seen it. I know what he's talking about. I remember that in the early 2000s, there was this video game that you could play, and you were like a volleyball player, and you were an anime girl in like this tiny little bikini with these big ass tits. And I remember being a young Kai and thinking, that's pretty cool. I would like to have some of those, and that never happened for me. So it's like, I understand, you know, I've engaged with the aesthetic of hentai. I've seen the prevalence of lolicon and aging up underage characters to make it somehow okay that you're lusting after them. So I can understand if you weren't paying attention, if you weren't thinking things through very well, if you were in the zone, right? Because I feel like that is a place where you might really not be thinking too critically about anything, right? Like you might just be in the moment, in the heat of the moment, and you didn't realize, okay, I feel then, if that is the thing that you're into, you need to almost vet the people that you are getting your content from, and the websites, the places, the art, you know, everything. It almost seems like you really need to vet it. And it does actually kind of, in a way, come back to unethical economic practices. For instance, you know, I think about rings. I would, you know, I would like to be married, so my Pinterest board shows me engagement rings, and every time I see a diamond, there is like part of my brain that says, like, I think somebody had to suffer for this piece of jewelry to exist, and that thought does kind of run through my mind. There are avenues that you can go to kind of circumvent the suffering that kind of is made to seem inevitable in that exchange, right? You can bypass that by doing your due diligence and making sure that you're purchasing from a manufacturer that is ethically sourced. So in a way, maybe it's almost kind of the same thing, right? Like if you're into hentai, or any porn, let's be honest, wouldn't you want to make sure that the people who created the thing that you're taking pleasure in did not have to suffer or harm anyone else in order for you to have that pleasure, right? I'll have to think about this a little bit more, but I might be coming around. I'm almost there.
Classes scrolling on my phone, I look at an image maybe 2 or 3 seconds before I like. The degree of scrutiny required there indicates that this goes beyond some kind of like matter of personal temperance and extends broadly into like, how weird is it that that's something that's been that normalized, you know? Anyway, I don't mean to like make a big point or make it like a broader issue, you know, as a way of pulling attention away from me fucking up. I just think it's a broader issue, you know? You know, people are going to say what they're going to say. They can judge me for what they're going to judge me for. I think a lot of people have been real and charitable. You know, I think it's insane to say this, like,
Yeah, it's a pedophile. You got him. I think that's insane. But again, it's not really an evidentiary argument that I can make. So what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I don't know. God willing, anime culture will get better one day. I wouldn't hold my breath though. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. I'm sure there are other clips or screenshots or arguments out there that people have thrown into their big anti-me documents. But like I said, I wanted to focus on the accusations that I feel are at least somewhat grounded. If I took the time to tackle all the obviously fake or disingenuous shit, we'd be here forever. And I think it would take away from the stuff I actually did feel I needed to address. Again, walking that line. There is a lot of bullshit, but I don't want to convey the impression that I feel every attack against me is illegitimate, or at least not properly motivated. Yeah, this isn't about debunking a narrative. It's about waving away the most transparently bullshit stuff so that I can focus on explaining the actual mistakes that I've made, the actual stupid shit that I've said, providing context, and laying out my thought process so folks on the fence have all the information before deciding to lean charitably or not. Yeah, I can't make someone be charitable. It's just up to how they see things. And, I can't ever view all this drama from an outside perspective. I'll always be biased because I am literally the only person who really knows how I feel and why I've said the things I said. And but to cap all this off, I'd still like to try my hand at it. I'd like to try and present the charitable narrative, how I feel this all looks with all the information and how I hope people take it. Again, not holding my breath on that one, but this is what I hope for. I have said some really, really stupid and difficult to defend stuff. Now, that much is clear. But almost all of it comes from the very, very beginning of my time as a live streamer. Looking at it all laid out like this, 5 or so years of drama and accusations, I think it should be clear to people who have watched this far that the explanatory variable in all those old clips was my stupid fucking debate bro brain. The obsession with inane hypotheticals and devil's advocates and shock value bullshit, which I employed because I thought using examples and comparisons that normies couldn't handle proved I was smart. It really is impossible to overstate how much I dislike the me in those clips, how I used to act in general. That being said, the terrible arguments and hypotheticals really were contained to those shock value debate bro moments. And as I stopped being that kind of debate bro, the terrible arguments and hypotheticals stopped. And that's why just about every clip used against me is at least 4 years old. They're more or less contained to a period of time during which I employed a rhetorical style that I would describe as a fucking stupid and insufferable. Even if the point I was making was fundamentally okay, I was also just way worse at communicating, which didn't help me. And that's another thing I'd like to stress. If anything has been thoroughly, objectively, uncontroversially demonstrated in all of this, it's that I'm a loudmouth. I can't shut the fuck up. I have no filter, etc. Worse than it is now, but nonetheless, it's a character trait. But in all the hundreds of times that sex or sexuality or kink or whatever else has come up on the stream, sometimes while I'm near blackout drunk from celebrating some event or another, no filter, I've always been really, really blunt and consistent about what I'm actually into in people, whether it be people my height or people with big round glasses or people with really dark, tired looking eye circles or pronounced collarbones or aquiline noses or whatever else. I know this is a low bar, but it's really weird to me because people accuse me of being a secret pedophile who accidentally let his mask slip by virtue of several months of extremely loud, abrasive, attention-grabbing, optically dogshit arguments, and yet also, back then and now, has been really consistent in wanting a girlfriend who looks like Reagan Ridley from Inside Job. That's a very novel way of letting the mask slip, right? No filter whatsoever. Clearly a poor sense of how other people will, interpret his words at times. Not always the best communicator, and yet it's every time this happens, it's always contained to hyperbolic debate bro bullshit. It's always shock value, rhetorical bullshit, which again, I know, low bar, right? But that, to me at least, that's the pattern. That's the clear pattern. Right. And I don't do that anymore. I'm a lot better at making arguments than I used to be. I'm a lot less, I don't know, I'm not trying to deflect. I'm a lot less autistic than I used to be. I don't know. At least marginally. These edgelord debate bro tendencies led me to think that the best way to construct my arguments and convince people that I was edgy and smart and blah, 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 was through the invocation of the kind of stuff that I have been dealing with the consequences of for 5 years. I, more than anyone, know the problems with those arguments. I just think that they indict me in different ways than people think they indict me. I think if nothing else, I think they just make me look like a fucking idiot. I have one that I'm trying to be less of. Ideally, I would like that. I certainly don't think I act now the way I did then. I don't think 5 years from now, I will look at me now and think as poorly of me as I do looking at me 5 years ago. There has been some improvement. That's the charitable explanation. That's the best I can offer. I think I set the stage with that child labor argument. Me being who I am, I was always going to get on, people's nerves. And to an extent, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. A degree of abrasiveness, I think, is a necessary and endearing trait in some people. Cope, I know. But I think that a lot of the stuff
that's happened in my career over the past 4 years has been tainted by the way I made those initial arguments. And a lot of the stuff people throw at me, they wouldn't have thought to throw at me if it wasn't for that initial poisoning of the well. You know, I think a lot of this is inertial. You know, it builds up, and I don't know how to stop that inertia, right? I mean, people say, you talk about this often all the time, you CP on your stream, but well, here I am talking about it again. Will this be the last time, or will a month from now I'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, aren't you that pedophile? And what am I going to do? Stop the conversation and link them the video? You know, inertia is a difficult thing to stop. I think that's actually like the meaning of inertia, like definitionally. So I could opine at length about how a lot of the hate I get is inconsistent. It's all a big popularity contest, and I'm an easy target, and people get upset with me for shit they'd write off if other people did it, and blah, blah. But pointing out all of those extremely true and correct facts, it doesn't solve the problem. I don't want to be disliked. I don't even really want to be controversial. I think the stuff that I advocate for is universally good. I want everyone to live a better life. You know, people disagree about how to do that, but as long as you're on the path, as long as you think people being happy is a good thing to fight for, then I think there's at least some agreement to be had. I don't want to be controversial for that reason, or for a lot of the reasons I seem to be. You know, I get into fights with people who agree with me on like 99% of shit. I think my channel's a cool and positive place, and it and my community are both a big source of pride for me. So I'd like it if everyone, or half of everyone, some proportion of everyone could see it that way. There's not much I can do about the optics black hole, though, at least not right away. I don't expect this video will get much positive attention on release. I think it's going to be kind of broadly ridiculed, largely, I think, from folks trashing it who haven't actually watched it. This is something that I expect. This is something we all know will happen. Whether or not you agree with me on any of this, you know that'll happen. It's unfortunate, but I can't make that not happen. I can't, like, rewrite reality. So if I can't do that, then I just have to accept it. And I'm sure there will be, like, drama YouTubers who comb over it and pause every 2 seconds to talk about the, like, pedophilic contour of my frontal lobe or whatever. You know, they'll just make a big laugh riot out of it. Still, in spite of all of that, as best as I can, it's honest and straightforward, and I don't think there's much I can do besides present it that way and let people make their own judgments. So yeah, that's it. I'm done making all of the arguments about my past and how people perceive me and blah, blah, blah. I want to take a second here at the end to directly address just my audience, what I'm hoping for in the future and what I'm asking for from them. You can still watch if you want, but if you don't care, then you can leave without missing anything. So to my audience, thanks for sitting through the whole thing. I know you don't have much of an attention span, especially because you're not used to this type of content on the channel. Don't laugh. Live streamers only turn into video essayists when they're extremely nervous. Look, first of all, I want to apologize for making it so difficult to be a fan of mine and a member of my community. Seriously, I'm sorry. In this respect, at least, you know, I think I've let you guys down. I think this is a great community. You know, exceptional, even. And as a consequence of my obstinance and carelessness and stupid fucking debate bro hypotheticals, many of you have been ostracized from other online communities or harassed on my behalf. The content of this channel and my messaging is unambiguously progressive and inclusive and good-spirited, you know? It's that might not be the popular conception of me and my content, but it remains true nevertheless. None of the people who enjoy my content for those reasons expected, I imagine, to be pushed out of other communities with similar values because they were a part of mine, because of me and my reputation. Yeah, I don't want that to continue being the case, but I don't really know what I can do to change it. You know, there's already such a massive gulf between what I know I am and what people think I am. The inertia of the uncharitability that I'm trying to push back against, it just feels overwhelming at times. While I'm working on that, you can help, you know? I want you guys to chill. Stop fighting on my behalf. Stop arguing for me against others, especially on the subject of this video. That's one of the reasons I made this video, you know? I saw so many people in my community tirelessly arguing against the worst and most dishonest shit people say about me, and I wanted them to have something that they could point to. This video, 5 years of drama, of bad faith bullshit and honest skepticism, condensed and addressed as clearly and as honestly as I could. If you're in another community and someone is giving you shit because they think you support a pedophile, point them to this video. And if they don't want to watch it, then that's that. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. It's their choice, right? This is something that we've seen time and time again. People don't just change their minds because you've argued them out of a point. I mean, it's very rare. You have to make people want to believe. You have to sell them the argument. And if the argument is that this community is good, then hey, or that I'm good, look, there are ways to do that. Right? You know, you can. I'm not saying it's pointless to be a positive advocate for this community, but I want you to be just that, a positive advocate. Don't let me and this space and all the people who are a part of it be defined exclusively through raging against the constant, pointless bad faith drama. You know, don't let that be what this is. You know, to be frank, nobody's ever been sold on a YouTuber because they saw a fan of that YouTuber passionately arguing that they're not a pedophile, right? When have you, it doesn't work. That's all people see looking in from outside this community, you know? a lot of this is me, a lot of this is my fault, but as a natural consequence of my particular kinds of brain damage, the people in this community like arguing, and it's very frustrating to a lot of the people in this community to argue a point that seems absolutely, completely, inarguably straightforward, straight line argument, no way people are going to disagree with it, something about me, about the community, and then other people don't respond well to it, and it's frustrating, and it feels like you're just battling nonstop against tides of irrational hate, and to an extent, yeah, but what has arguing against it this way done? What has it gotten you or us? Not much, I'd wager. There are better ways to make these points. Talk about the good bits, the funny bits, all the good arguments, the fundraising for charity, or the canvassing or positivity or life advice or whatever. There are lots of good things to talk about. I remember a while ago, someone on Twitter, they got upset with me. I don't remember why. It was a trans advocacy account, and there were people in their community who were also in mine, and they got upset with me. So people following them replied, "No, don't go after Vaush. He's cool." And that trans advocacy account tweeted, "Why do you all like Vaush so much? Like, seriously, what's with all this defense? What has he done for you?" And what resulted from that was, and this has been archived, it's something that I look at, I'm man enough to admit, I get a little misty-eyed, hundreds and hundreds of people talking about how me or this community has been or have been instrumental in helping them in some way with regards to their identity, their acceptance, their ability to defend themselves against bad arguments. That's good, right? I mean, that's a good sell.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut him off, but I realized that it had been a while since I said anything, and I wanted to remind you that I was still here. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. Now, I'm in that part of my special time of the month, so take it with a grain of salt, and the emotions are a little higher than usual. And I've seen comments from people saying that they don't like it when I get emotional, and I'm sorry. Well, this might just not be the channel for you, okay? Because I'm a very emotional person. And listening to Vaush, I can tell, I think, that he is very genuine. He's being very genuine. And I have to agree that in the content that I have consumed from Vaush, he does seem like he really cares about the things that he advocates for. And one thing that I don't like about my video, looking back on it again, I just barely posted it today. Very unfortunate timing. One thing I don't like about my video is the way that I had said that Vaush was using leftism as a mask for his degeneracy. And I think what would have been more appropriate and more real to life to say would have been that Vaush was a leftist who wasn't playing by the same rules that leftists play by today. This PC culture kind of started around the same time that Vaush was getting into this community, and it seems like he was someone who was kind of rubbing up against that and challenging that, and he was more immature at that time of his life, so I can see that. A trap that a lot of young people fell into during the 2016 election cycle was the anti-SJW movement, and it's a pit that I found myself in that I eventually had to drag myself out of. And I'll tell you that one of the major contributing factors to the reason why I even ended up in that pit was because I wasn't medicated, okay? And now that I am, I see the world so much clearer. I see everything so much clearer, not even just the world and my political perspectives. And it's been a long time that I have reformed and forsaken the reactionary conservative talking points that I used to use. Now, granted, nothing ever as controversial or insane off the wall as Vaush, but I wasn't trying to garner an audience to watch me day in and day out and prove that I was somebody entertaining. And this is going to sound kind of totally off the wall, but I want you to hear me out. My boyfriend and I watch a lot of professional wrestling. One of the things that makes wrestling really interesting is all of the machismo and all of the acting, the personality that the wrestler has to employ to get the audience on their side, and that could be as a good guy or as a heel bad guy. And I kind of have been putting YouTubers into this same perspective for a while now, thinking that a lot of times people are just putting on some sort of personality. And when you use that comparison to what Vaush has kind of talked about in that video and what he had said in some of his earlier streams, you do kind of understand where he's coming from, right? Like, it sounds like from what he was saying is that he put on a personality for the sake of putting on a personality. What I have to admit is that all of the clips that I used, most of them anyway, were from many years ago, before I knew Vaush, before I was even really as politically aware as I am today. Streaming is so different from recorded video. I don't think you need me to tell you that. The rawness of it, I think, the interacting with someone or feeling like you're interacting with someone in real time is a different vibe, right? It's a different aspect or a different kind of content, right? But the drawback is that leaves you incredibly susceptible to things like this happening to Vaush. I'm satisfied with his explanation of most of the things that he shared. The part that still gets to me is the hand waving of some of the content that was in there. Now, you could say that he did explain it, that he just wasn't being careful, and yada yada yada. I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to see Vaush the same way, because I just don't think that I should have this kind of information, right? I didn't need to know any of this. This never needed to happen. It's a completely freak thing that it even happened. Moving forward, I don't know. I think Vaush will definitely lose support. He's most definitely lost support because of this. It's unfortunate because I think the things that he advocates for, again, by and large, are very good things and things that I also advocate for and believe in. I think he's right that people who want to take him as a predator will. I never wanted to believe that Vaush was a predator. It was, again, very shocking, very jarring to come across the things that I came across, but when you look at them all put together, with Vaush completely, finishing his thought, even if you don't agree with how he got there, or the rhetorical devices that he used to get there, that's where he was going. I think what he provided definitively proves that he wasn't trying to say the things that I thought he was trying to say, that Ethan is trying to seem like it, to make it seem like he says, or anybody else is trying to make it seem like he says. Like, some of the clips that are in my video are completely manipulative, like completely clipped, like spliced together in such a way that you would not even be able to tell. Like, it seems like one fluid conversation. Now that he's released this video, I do hope that people watch it. It's a long video, and this is going to be a long video, but it's important. It is important because, like he said, it's a very serious accusation. I don't believe that Vaush is a pedophile in the traditional sense that you and I think of pedophiles. I think that because he likes the kind of content that he likes, he is unfortunately susceptible to running into images of sexualized children, which kind of seems inextricable from the hentai community at this point. And I guess that's something that he has to deal with. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to handle that either. You have to understand several layers of internet niche history to be able to even conceptualize what Vaush is saying and where he's coming from. And to the average person who catches wind of this drama, they're not going to be able to do that. For somebody like me who does sort of have experience in the political space in that era, I do know what kind of person Vaush was trying to be. The reason I didn't make that assumption at first is because of what happened on February the 7th, which still is a question in my mind. The explanation that Vaush provided is that there's just really no getting around the fact that if you enjoy that particular kind of content, you're inevitably going to run into pieces of it that are not right or appropriate. That is his cross to bear, I suppose. I have no idea, man. I have no idea. This is fucking crazy. I didn't expect this to be the way that I came back to making videos. I'm happy to be making videos again because I forgot how much I do enjoy it. I enjoy having the facts and having a full, like a well-informed opinion as much as I possibly can. And I'm glad now. I'm glad. I feel like I'm good. I feel like we're good.